The day my mother-in-law told me I would never survive without her son. I was standing exactly like this, washing dishes, pretending I was fine. She was wrong, but it took me 11 months, 3 jobs, and 1 very bad week to prove it to myself. This is that story. My name is Nadia. 2 years ago, I had a husband, a daughter, and a life that was small but completely ours. Daniel worked long hours. I stayed home with Lena. She was 11 months old. We didn't have much, but we laughed every single day. His family never liked me, his mother especially. She was never cruel, just cold, the kind of cold that makes you feel you are always one step from being asked to leave. I told myself it would get better. It always gets better. I told myself that right up until the moment it got much, much worse. Daniel had been having headaches for months. We said it was stress, work, the city, the ordinary explanations that protect you from the ones that aren't ordinary. In February, he went for a scan. I waited outside with Lena, reading the same page of the same magazine 4 times without seeing a single word. The doctor came out. He sat down next to me. He said a word I had heard before but never had to hold in my own hands. Stage 3, aggressive. I remember looking down at Lena sleeping in the pram beside me, her small chest rising and falling, one tiny fist curled by her cheek. And I thought, she might not remember him. We had 8 months. 8 months is not enough for anything, but if you are present for every single day, it is also a kind of whole life. We made it one. And then, one cold October morning, he was gone. And I was 25 years old, with an 11-month-old daughter, and a mother-in-law who had been waiting for exactly this moment. People say funerals are for the living. I understand that now. Because the whole cold day, I kept watching Margaret. She held herself so straight, thanked every person who came, arranged the flowers, did everything a mother does when she has lost a son. She did not look at me once. After the burial, Margaret asked me to come to the back room. Just family, she said. She sat across from me and folded her hands on the table. She spoke very quietly, like she had rehearsed it, like it had been decided already before Daniel was even buried. She said, "The flat is in the family name. It always has been. We'll need you to make arrangements to leave within the month." I looked at her. I actually thought I had misunderstood. I thought, she cannot mean what she just said. Not today. Not with Lena on my lap. I said, "This is our home. Lena's home." She said, "Daniel is gone. The arrangement was with Daniel." And Paul, who had not said a single word all day, Paul said, "We'll give you a month. That's fair." Fair. I stood up. I held Lena against my shoulder. I walked back into the wake where people were still drinking tea and talking about what a wonderful man Daniel had been. And I smiled, because Lena was watching my face, and I was not going to let her see it break. Not yet. Not here. What I didn't know then was that the flat was only the beginning of what they planned to take. I drove until I ran out of reasons to keep driving. I pulled into a side street 3 roads from the house that had just stopped being mine. I turned off the engine. The rain came down on the roof and that sound that is almost peaceful when you are inside and safe. But I was not safe. I was just dry. Lena had fallen asleep on the drive. I could hear her breathing from the back seat. That soft, completely trusting sound of a baby who believes that wherever she is okay because her mother is there. She had no idea we had nowhere to go. I opened my purse. I counted what I had. 38 pounds. A debit card with less than 50 on it. I tried to think. My own mother was abroad. My closest friend had just had her own baby. I could not arrive at her door on the night of my husband's funeral with a sleeping child and 38 pounds. I could not. So I sat in the dark. And then Lena made a sound. Not a cry, just a small sound. The sound babies make when they are checking that the world is still there. She looked at me with those enormous dark eyes, blinking, slowly. She reached her arms up. Mama. I climbed into the back seat. I held her as tightly as I dared, and I made her a promise. Not out loud, but the kind you feel in your whole body when you make it. I said, I do not know how, I do not know when, but I am going to give you a home. A real one that no one can take. 3 days after the funeral, I found out about the insurance policy. Daniel had a small life insurance policy, not large, but enough to give us time.
Are you sure?
Enough to
This
breathe.
is unbelievable.
His
I have to
mother
do
was the
something.
named beneficiary. He had never changed it. It was from before we met. One of those things young men don't think about because they don't plan to die at 30. I am not angry at Daniel for that. He couldn't have known. But Margaret knew. She had also been to our storage unit. We had kept things there. Boxes, furniture, things from before Lena was born. When I went to collect them, she had already been. Most of it was gone. I stood in that empty storage unit with Lena on my hip, looking at the spaces where our life used to be, and I felt something change in me. Not break, change.
What is this
The
place?
grief was still there.
think I
It didn't
hear
go
something.
anywhere. But underneath it, something quieter and harder was beginning. Anger is the wrong word. It was more like clarity. I had just seen the worst they could do, and I was still standing. I want to be honest about what rebuilding looks like. It does not look like a montage. It feels like the same day repeating slightly differently for a very long time. I applied for emergency housing. I applied for bereavement support. I applied for everything I was told I might be eligible for, and several things I was told I wasn't. I was turned down 3 times. The 4th time, a woman named Sara sat across from me, read my file, and looked up. She said, "You should have been approved the 2nd time. Someone made an error. I'm going to fix that today." I had prepared myself to hear no again. I had a whole speech ready for how I would respond to no with dignity. I was not prepared for Sara. She approved us that afternoon. Temporary housing, a small flat on the 2nd floor. Not perfect, but it had a room for Lena. It had a lock on the door. It was ours. I sat on the floor beside the cot with my back against the wall, and I thought, we have a room. We have a room. 4 months later, I had a job. Not my dream job, but it paid. And paying matters more than pride when you have a child and a life to build from nothing. I have thought a long time about whether to tell this story. Not because I am ashamed, but because some parts of it still live very close to the surface. The night in the car, Lena's arms reaching up in the dark, the storage unit, Sara, the scratched white cot. These things are mine now, part of the shape of who I am. I don't want to tell you that everything happens for a reason. I don't believe that. What I believe is simpler. I believe that you can go through the worst thing you can imagine and still be standing on the other side. Not unchanged, not unbroken, but standing. If you are in the middle of it right now, If you are in the car, if you are counting what is in your purse, if you are sitting across from someone who just told you that fair is 30 days to leave your home, I need you to hear this. You are not what they decided you were in that back room. You are the woman who kept driving until she found a side street. You are the woman who opened a notebook at 3 in the morning and made a list. You are the woman who said, "I need help." And you are the woman who sat on the floor of a plain white flat, watching her daughter sigh the sigh of complete safety, and thought, "We have a room." Margaret thought I would not survive without her son. Lena is 2 years old now. She walks into every room like she owns it. I made that. From a car with 38 pounds and a promise I intended to keep. We kept it.